Quick review. Joseph, who has done very well in Egypt, is by predicting 7 years of plenty and now 7 years of famine, have brought his brothers, or is bringing his brothers and father back safely into Egypt, or into Egypt with him, to be saved from this horrible drought that's hitting the entire world. When Jacob got to Goshen, Joseph harnessed his chariot and went up to meet his father. He cried on his shoulder for a very long time. Jacob's immediate family, his sons, their wives, and grandchildren totaled 66 people when they got into Egypt. And that doesn't include the servants and cattle and whatnot. Now, the Egyptians were prejudiced against shepherds and folks who lived in tents, like Jacob and his family. So Pharaoh only met a few of Joseph's brothers, and he did meet Jacob. Because of Pharaoh's love and trust in Joseph, he agreed to have them live in the delta region of Egypt, which is called Goshen, and he asked them to take care of the Egyptian cattle. And then Jacob, in turn, gave Pharaoh a blessing. The famine continued. Joseph was busy selling grain to all the people in Egypt and all the surrounding areas. After the 3rd year of famine, the people's money was in Pharaoh's account. The next year, the people needed food again, and they had no money, so they brought in all their livestock, and it was added to Pharaoh's riches. The next year, the people had nothing left but their land, so all the land in Egypt and all the surrounding areas became the property of Pharaoh. From that time on, 1/5 of all the food and produce that came off the land was Pharaoh's. Pharaoh's wealth and power increased exponentially under Joseph's management. Pharaoh became the most powerful man on earth because of Joseph. Just a little look ahead. In 400 years after this, there's the Pharaoh that pops up that doesn't remember Joseph. That actually happened probably in about 200 or 300 years. And but that Pharaoh, he had his power. The Pharaoh that Moses is going to meet in Exodus, coming up after this book is done real soon. That Pharaoh had his power because of Joseph. Anyway, Jacob lived 17 years more in Egypt, and when it was time for him to die, Joseph came to him with his sons. Jacob made Joseph promise that he would take his body out of Egypt and bury it in the family plot in Canaan. Joseph blessed all of his sons. Joseph's sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, were included. Jacob's longest blessing was to the family of Judah. He said the king of all Israel would come from Judah's family. When Jacob died, his sons and Joseph took a nice trip to the family plot in Canaan to bury Jacob. Pharaoh instituted official mourning in Egypt for Jacob. After Jacob was buried, his sons thought Joseph would finally get his revenge, and they talked to him about it. Joseph assured them that they were forgiven. God is bigger than your bad intentions, he said. Everything has turned out as God intended. So that's the book of Genesis, and we pick up in Exodus, where after a few hundred years, Joseph's accomplishments had been long forgotten. So, and the Hebrews down in Goshen were a problem for the current Pharaoh. So that's where we'll pick it up tomorrow. Now, just in quick review, Genesis starts with God creating the world. He gives the Adam and Eve one rule. They break it pretty quick, and they're forced from the garden. And he also seems to have this serpent enemy that influences things for men. So then there's a murder, Cain and Abel. And then things continue to get real bad. People are living a long time. And after 12 generations, God is so disgusted with the whole thing, he's sorry he even made it. So he destroys the world with a flood and saves one family through Noah. And he's sorry about it and makes a rainbow and says he's never going to do it again. God does. And then another dozen or so Mas or Menos generations go by, and things have gotten so bad again that, again with misplaced aspirations of man, that he has to destroy the Tower of Babel, and he casts people all over the world with different languages. So to this point in Genesis, God hasn't seen a single success with his creation. But he's going to turn it around because God is God. And he is love. And it just can't stand that it would continue to go bad like this. So he chooses again one man, Abram, and he makes him a promise. He says, I need you to do one thing. I need to leave where you are and go to this new place that I'm going to tell you. And when you do that, I'm going to make you a great nation. And you will become a blessing. As a matter of fact, what you are going to do is going to bless every nation. And not only every nation, but every family on earth will be blessed. Now, every family on earth is a very all-inclusive statement. That's everybody. You're part of a family on earth. Me too. So God said that he is going to bless everybody, every family. And now, if the people say that, or the church has said that things end up with parts of families, sometimes entire families, burning in hell for eternity. That doesn't jive with this promise. So, let's continue with the Bible with this promise, knowing that God's intentions are for good. Now, as the story goes on, after he makes that promise, those patriarchs, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and finally Joseph down at the end, there's problems throughout. I mean, the whole Arab Israel thing cropped right up in Abraham's camp with Ishmael because he got a little impatient. There were murders and lies and deceits and just all kinds of horrible things that happened in this story in Genesis. But it never once changed God's promise to those people. He was going to keep it no matter how they behaved, which is comforting to me because sometimes I don't behave as I know I should, and I know you probably don't either. We all fall short. So, but the story of the Bible is that every one of us are going to get blessed at the end, and God's going to be the one that takes care of it for us, not necessarily our own performance, as we're finding out right here in the story. So we'll pick that up in Exodus during our next episode.